course, now the radiator decides to make weird noise. Go ahead, I can wait. I forgot my beer. There we go. Pray to the alcohol gods that I don't spill this. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Get Lit and Knit podcast. I'm Allie, and I'm coming to you from the far north side of Chicago. I'm one half of Get Lit and Knit on Instagram, which is a joke that, well, it was an account that we started half joking, half not. So Abby and I, my best friend from college, we started an account to post our knitting projects and our kind of boozy relaxation time while she's working her way through medical school. It's crazy busy, I can't even imagine. And I'm working full time and applying to law school for next fall. So the whole premise of this thing is that we are knitting and having the occasional drink to cope with stress the way we have since college. That said, this isn't my drunk kitchen. I have fairly ambitious career plans, and so does Abby, so we're not drinking on camera, but do know that may or may not be between scenes. So, because Abby is so busy, she's not going to be on, I would say, most of these episodes. We'll have to play it by ear and see, but she will be on some of them, but mostly it will be me. So before this all started, we put out a post on Instagram to see if anyone would even care. I don't know, I felt like the market maybe was a little saturated, or I showed up late to the party. People have been doing this for years and I had no idea. I just stumbled on this a few months ago. So I put a post out and I tagged people who I've been watching for a while and whose content I really liked. Ellie's scratching things. Cats, right? But anyway, the feedback I got was just so overwhelmingly supportive, and it wasn't that I expected negative feedback, but people are busy. I didn't expect anybody to respond. So special shout outs to everybody who just comment after comment told me to just go for it and to do a podcast instead of Periscope because editing is a thing. So I'll wait. This is her apartment, I just live here. And we're done, cool. Alright, so extra special shout outs to people who have been supportive and encouraged me to do this crazy thing. So, going down the list because I didn't want to forget anyone. Eric from the 6+ Twine podcast, Brittany from Sip and Stitch, Jenny and Devin from Tiny Paper Foxes, Nicole from Hugh Loco, Christine Kelly from U University, and Melissa from the Spicy Homemaker podcast. Everybody had great feedback and input, and special shout out to Devin for answering my lighting questions because I tried Googling around and figuring it out, and that is just so not my wheelhouse. So thank you. It was really appreciated. And one last housekeeping thing. I am prone to cursing. It's, I don't know, might be an impulse control or a maturity problem, but the way I see it, I just feel things pretty intensely, especially frustration. We'll get to that when we talk about the Georgetown cardigan. So, in an effort to not offend you or corrupt your children, I'm just gonna probably stick a sheep noise over anything I accidentally say, rather than just, having to throw away takes because I accidentally said a bad word. We're just gonna prepare for the inevitable. So, before we talk about whips, just wanted to say an extra special thanks to Yankee 76 on Ravelry, who is Vegan Jilly's sister. She started this thing called Project Bust. So it's it's a group on Ravelry. It's an informal accountability system for stash busting and digging out those old projects and getting stuff done. And had I not done that, I would not have gotten through January Sockathon or had any other FOs for you. So before we get to that, let's talk about whips. So, starting off, we've got the Quadri Hat by Michelle Wong. This is, as you can probably guess, inspired by Kristen, the Yarngasm podcast. This is in Madeline Tosh Vintage in the ink colorway. Looking at you, Jenny. And not much to report here. It's on size 8 interchangeables, the Knit Picks wood set. Forgot the name of the color. I know there's a name. Just mostly into the, I don't know, I'm only 2 cables deep on the rib, and I'll insert pictures because I'm just not gonna mess around with trying to get this to focus. It's a fun knit for sure. It's just started it as kind of a remedy to January Sockathon. I cranked out 4 pairs, I'll show one later, and anything that's not a sock or a fingering weight project at this point, just it feels like instant gratification knitting. It was fun, but I'm not making socks for a while. I'm good. Alright, so that's one. This one's a little bit of a monster. Oh god. Okay, so this one is the Junebugs Kitty Bed by Wendy Engstrom, and this is just random black merino from Deep Stash. I'm 23 now, and I'm pretty sure this is from high school. Knitting this on size 11 circular needles, the same interchangeable set from Knit Picks. And the yarn bowl, if you can see it, it's like being engulfed. Love this thing. This is from, say this without giggling, the, damn it, nope. This is a yarn bowl from Kickapoo Pottery it's in southern Illinois. I want to say it's in Oakwood, Illinois. It's by like the Kickapoo campground. My mom and stepdad picked this up for me years ago, and I didn't think I would use it, but this thing has so many holes that I imagine if you wanted to, it would be awesome for color work. I just haven't used it for that reason. So the reason I'm on the struggle bus with this knit, and I had to add it to Project Bust, otherwise it was never going to happen, is it's gonna be felted, so it's huge. Like, there's so much yardage, it's worsted weight held double, and it's like you can't tell when you're making progress because it kind of folds in on itself, and there are plenty of times I've thought I've had like an inch more of fabric knitted than I actually have. It's not a super fun feeling, so it's a good one for just kind of like TV knitting straight stockinette, but I'm over it, and I don't know, just hoping the cat actually uses it, otherwise there was no point other than getting rid of a ton of black merino that I didn't know what to do with. This next one is my little jar of Hexie Puffs for the Beekeeper's Quilt by Tiny Owl Knits. Now this is an old one, and I know I may be very, 3 years behind the curve on this one, and everybody has moved on to the Cozy Memories blanket, but I really wanted this one. I've tried it, started it a couple times, and just never followed through with it, and figured out through trial and error that the best way for me was to make the unstuffed version. So this is part of a colorway that I traded with Abby. We sat down, I'll see if I can stick the Instagram picture on here. We had bought a bunch of yarn and also had a bunch of just stuff in stash that we split up and turned into mini skeins so we would both have more colors for our blankets. So this is, I'll have to put the name of the brand on the screen because I can't pronounce it. You'd think after a couple years of Spanish I could manage that, but this is the bubblegum colorway. And then, cool story about this guy. So this was the yarn that I knit my first pair of socks with. I bought it, I would have had to have been 16 at a fiber festival in rural Illinois, and I talked to the couple who owned the farm and the dyeing company, and they explained to me that the farmer's wife was blind, but she would collaborate with her husband, and he would mix the dye pots for her, and she would dye the yarn. So naturally, I'm a giant softie and had to buy entirely too much of this. I've had this for years, and this is finally, I got 5 puffs out of this. It's the last of that yarn. So when I say deep stash, I mean deep stash. So the rule I kind of have for this blanket is I want no more than 5 of each color. And so far, the official Hexipuff count is 44. I've seen projects where people are knitting 700 plus of these, so between this and the cat bed, they're probably both going to have to be longer term projects, and I'm gonna have to be okay with it. I am an absolutely shameless, unapologetic Kanye West fan. And I saw this on Etsy forever ago, this like running trend where cross-stitch designers, so we're departing from knitting for a second, were making cross-stitch patterns out of rap lyrics, which I just thought was the funniest thing. Like, the more vintage they look, the funnier it is. I saw a sampler that had a rainbow on it and a bunch of like 70s looking flowers, and it said like it feels good to be a gangster, and I was like, I need that in my kitchen immediately. But instead, I settled on this pattern. It's the Kanye West PDF by Pend and String on Etsy, and it's a little motivational cross-stitch pattern to love yourself as much as Kanye loves Kanye. I try not to have artwork or posters or anything with like motivational phrases in my house, because like I don't really want platitudes with my breakfast. The closest I get to that is the poster in my kitchen that says treat yourself. And so I figured this was on theme. So I started it with the hair and got super bored with this like just giant color block. And this is probably not proper like cross-stitch technique at all. But I started outlining like his ear, going into his neck, and started coming around this way. And this is like 808s and Heartbreak Kanye, so he has huge sunglasses and just very stoic because he hates when people see him smile. And really, I just wanted to do whatever I had to do to get back around to the lettering. So that's where we're at. We're at Love York. So, see, I'll keep you updated on that. I know it's not technically a whip, but my podcast, my rules, and it counts. All right, speaking of whips that make me have to make an effort to not curse on camera, let's talk about the Georgetown Cardigan by Hannah Fettig. This is from the Home and Away book, and there it is. I have the book on me because I'm sure you've all seen this, but there's just something about the artwork on this guy that is just, I don't know, soothing on an existential level for me. So I finally got my hands on 13 skeins of Quince & Co. Owl in the Albertine colorway. I think that's their all-natural gray. Could be making that up. But it sold out more than once before I could get my hands on it. So naturally I was very excited when I got it. Did my swatch and all that fun stuff, and we'll talk about that in the errata section because there is a story. Knitting this on size 3 needles for the rib, and then size 5 for the body, which is like 2 sizes down from the recommended size just to get gauge. So that's, if I didn't say so already, this is 50-50 wool alpaca. And we'll come back to this one after the FOs. All right, moving on to finished objects. So I alluded to this earlier, but I participated in the January Sockathon and have bought my box of socks for Kristen's Knit Along for 2016. I managed to get 4 pairs of socks done in January. Let's grab them. These were a fail. These are the Lao socks by SoCal Megan Knits, and it wasn't a problem with the pattern, it wasn't a problem with the yarn, it was a problem with my judgment. Because there's like a really cool leaf lace motif on here. Can you tell? Neither can I. So I might give these to my mom. Originally they were going to be, I was trying to get ahead on Christmas knitting, how crazy is that? But I may just give them to her as a, I tried. I don't know, I don't feel good about giving somebody these for Christmas. She'll probably love them, but it's another rookie badge. The second pair was a mix of fiber spates, the brown, I think that's just what the colorway is called, but there's a ton of variegation in here, like different browns and grays, so it was really nice. It was leftover from my first pair of 2 at a time socks that I knit. I took a class at my local yard store in November, had a ton left over, and so I mixed it in with the Patton's Croy FX in the Clover colorway. I don't know what it is about this pattern, and the fact that I didn't write it down and I don't remember should tell you how I feel about it, because they look huge. They look like house slippers, but they fit the same, like just as well as all of the narrower socks I knitted. Go figure. All right, pair number 3. I really like these. So this is 2 kinds of Patton's Croy. One's just a solid gray. I don't remember the colorway. And then I think this is the Patton's Croy something denim. I don't know. This was Deep Stash too. This was from high school. I didn't even bother trying to make the striping the same. They're going in my shoes. They're going to coordinate. If you hear what sounds like 2 notches below a dog whistle, that's my radiator. Super fun. So most people I've been listening to lately have made some mention at some point of trying to find their vanilla sock, their ideal sock recipe. And the closest I've come to this is just a shortened leg version of the basic knee-high toe sock by Leslie, or Single Stitch Knit. Couldn't find her on Instagram anywhere, tried to tag her, but those have been getting a ton of wear, fits great. Then one more pair, same pattern, more Patton's Croy solid gray, and then FX, and I don't remember the name of the colorway, but yeah, really happy with these. And these were all knit, because this just seems to be my gauge for socks, on Knitter's Pride Cubics, size 2. I had to switch to metal ones because my Chiaogus got so much love, the bamboo ones, that they started splintering. So I knit my socks 2 at a time, magic loop. I'm a very recent convert, and I'm not going back. Like, when I knit socks 1 at a time, I'm taking very detailed notes to make sure that they match, and it's so much easier and it's more fun. So, and I mostly just wanted to see if I could learn it. I've tried to teach myself 2 at a time magic loop on YouTube a bunch of times, and it's always been a failure. I had to take the class. Then for my last FO, we have the Simple Autumn Mittens by Haldora J on Ravelry. I think it was a free pattern. Do your research. Alright, so these were knit on Knit Picks double pointed needles 2.5s, US 2.5s, and this is leftover Petty Boo sock tonal from a pair of socks I knit for my stepdad for Christmas. This is this is colorway 1105 brown. Really just needed mittens, really kind of just wanted to stash bust. This was another FO for Project Bust, I just haven't posted it yet. Yeah, I have small hands, but if I could do it again, I probably would have added a couple rows to the body. Like, I wish the cuff came down just a little bit lower, but big fan of the lace pattern. Otherwise, the fit's really great. It's warmer than I expected a bamboo wool blend to be, but I'm a big fan. who's ready for a nitty tale of woe? Because I got one. It's, I guess, less of a tale of woe and more of a tale of knitting anxiety. So, just the exact opposite of what knitting is supposed to evoke, but I guess I can make anything anxiety provoking. So, I, like we talked about a little bit earlier, really wanted to make the Georgetown cardigan. And I knew that if I was going to make a sweater, this is my first sweater ever, I was going to have to swatch. I hate swatching. I know you're supposed to do it. It's like going to the dentist. I know it's necessary. I know, I just hate it. So I did it, and I figured out that I needed to go down 2 needle sizes, which, like, no big deal. I thought I had them around. I was wrong. So I'll talk about acquisitions in a minute, you know, kind of flying in the face of my yarn diet. We went to a couple different yarn stores, Abby and I went out for wool wash, which I got, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and did not once think to check the needle sizes, or to, I had the book with me. Like, what excuse did I have? I just never thought to do it. So, when I ordered the microphone and the tripod for the iPhone we're shooting on, I had to order 2 pairs of, well, not 2 pairs, 2 circular needles, 40-inch, the Chiagu stainless steel, I don't know, they've got a red cord, I think it's like the red lace ones. So, ordered those, fine. Very excited, start casting on. I posted an update on Instagram when I finished the first of what will be somewhere between 11 and more crunching. Thank you for that, Ellie. Somewhere between 11 and 13 skeins. We'll see how this pans out. I ordered 13. But, so the way the pattern is written, without giving too much away, the yoke of the sweater, like it's an open cardigan, is ribbed, and the rest is stockinette, and then there's like ribbing on the cuffs and the back bottom seam. I'm knitting the mostly seamless version because if there's one thing I hate, it's finishing and weaving in ends. And I'm knitting this thinking that I'm starting with the neck, and I'm like draping it over my neck and freaking out thinking, like, I swatched, I did all these things, I even like broke the yarn as I was panicking and knit up another like tiny cheater swatch in the size 5s. My gauge was spot on. I'm like, I did everything right. I'm on Ravelry trying to troubleshoot. Nobody has knitted this version. I think I found 2, but they didn't have notes. And I never put project pages up anyway, so I really can't complain. And then I look at the picture and I realize I'm knitting the back bottom seam. Everything is fine. I'm freaking out over nothing. So, all that said, I am almost through skein number 2, and I really gotta slow my roll on this because I want to enter this in the Fun Knits podcast Quince & Co. knit along. But if I get through too much of this, I'm not gonna be able to. So if I get through skein 5 before February 1st, which could happen because this is a really addictive knit and I spend a lot of time on the CTA, I'm gonna have to stop and work on something else. So I guess, I don't know, it's a teachable moment about being able to read patterns, but I guess I didn't realize until I did this how much or how little each individual designer holds your hand through a project like this. And I love this book, Hannah Fede, like, don't get me wrong. I've never made a sweater and probably could have dealt with a little more hand holding. It feels like a little bit of a logical exercise to try to figure out, like, do I know enough about knitting to be able to make a first sweater with, you know, not super effusive instruction. Alright, let's talk about my vain attempts at yarn dieting. So, over the weekend, I went out to go visit Abby at medical school, which is just at the very end of one of the CTA lines, not mine, unfortunately. We're kind of on opposite ends of town. But we went because we knew she had at least one yarn store by her. So I went out for wool wash. That was supposed to be it. I should have known. Like, it was not gonna be it. So I got the 2 little bottles of soak, which was what I wanted. I also had a ton of socks to wash. Like, I washed that entire box. And so we went just for soap, and I came back with all kinds of stuff. So we went to Knit Nirvana, and that's where I got that skein of Madeline Tosh for the quadri hat from. They were super nice, definitely like a super tight like community shop. We figured out that the owner's daughter goes to the same medical school that Abby goes to, so that was cool. And then we knew that there used to be a yarn store in the area that went under over the summer, I think, and they're still on Google Maps. But the confusing thing was, so the name of the old store is on there, and then the Fiberista Club is also on there, and I thought that was just a subscription box thing, because it was. I really hope you just saw the cat jump in the shot. That would be pretty funny. But so anyway, I thought that I didn't know the Fiberista Club had a brick and mortar store, and apparently they do. So we went and we bought all the things. Oh. Alright, so I forgot to grab one of the acquisitions, and one of them has already been wound into mini skeins, split between Abby and I, so I'm just going to stick the Instagram picture of our mini haul on the screen. We got 2 packages of Sweet Georgia Party of 5 Tough Love sock. Kind of unintentionally bought the rainbow. I just have a horrible habit of buying everything in purple and black and gray, and Abby explicitly said, like, you're not allowed to buy purple, and I'm glad. I have more than enough and have made more than enough. So the red, orange, and yellow mini skeins are going to go to the Hexipuff blankets. The mini skeins were 105 yards each, and I average about 10 yards per puff, so it was perfect. We both got, each got 25 puffs worth of yarn out of it. And then for the set of skeins that's green and blue, that's the Sea to Sky collection, which I'm a huge fan of. I might knit gradient socks, but I know it's sock yarn, but it's so pretty that I almost want to make something else. And there's something I've been wanting to make for a while that the only way I can describe it is that I have like a deep and abiding spiritual need to knit this. I'm not going to put it up, but I will link it. It is the How Cold Is It mittens by Drunk Girl Designs. And of course, when I saw her design name, I was like, all right, you gotta check this out. She has these great mittens, like there's honey badger ones, and there's kitten mittens, which of course I need in my life, but I really want to make the How Cold Is It mittens. I don't know. After a few Chicago winters, although admittedly this one is super mild, really can't complain. I gotta have them. And in a final tiny fun acquisition at the Fiberista Club, we also got to talk to Hunter, who is, I want to say he's like the head, but the co-owner of Fiberista Club. I think he runs it with his partner. And they had just at the register, just talking to Hunter and like kind of learning about the subscription service, which I'm very tempted to do, but I need more yarn, like I need a hole in the head. So we got the Sweet Georgia skeins from there, and then had to get a little beer koozie. Like, of course I needed this. I didn't even think about it. I was like, done. I'm assuming they make them because there's no tag or additional branding or anything, but I don't know, it's just so on theme and I needed it. So now that I took away the gin wrapper that Ellie has been playing with and making noise with, we are going to move on to the section I have reserved for my just new kid ignorance questions, because I have a few of them. I haven't been watching podcasters long enough or been active on Ravelry long enough to have answers to these questions, so my hope is that on the episode thread, maybe you guys can enlighten me. Alright. Okay, real talk show notes. Does anyone care? Does anyone read them? Does anyone want them? I'm happy to do them, but I personally don't check them very often. I can see their value, like if you watched an episode a couple weeks ago and suddenly you realize you have yarn for it, you don't want to dig back through that video and try to listen for it or watch for the link in the corner, which, I don't know, I would almost rather do, just hyperlink it. But I also understand why you may not want to have to go back and watch through it, so let me know. I'll do them for now. They won't be super detailed, and if y'all tell me that you really don't care, I might just link the patterns and products and stuff in the video. Second one, I really don't know the answer to this. Is everybody burnt out on knit-alongs? Are these still fun for people? Because if they're still fun, I have an idea, but I know a ton of them wrapped up in January, and December is kind of an intense gift knitting time for people, but the one I have in mind is purely self-love, self-indulgent, and I kind of want to challenge this idea of selfish knitting, or like the idea that our knitting has to be productive or that it has to be gifted to somebody. I think making for the sake of making and doing stuff that's just for you doesn't need any further explanation. So let me know if that's something we're interested in. We'll run it. Okay, this is more of a YouTube related question. Outside of kind of the Bakery Bears Patreon model, I love you guys, by the way, why is it, more crunching, why isn't anyone monetizing their podcasts? Like, is that just an unwritten rule that people don't do it? Are the ads so intrusive at this point that they're really annoying to people? Or is it just that the view counts aren't high enough to justify how annoying the ads are? Because at least what I know from work and projects I'm doing, the bottom has kind of fallen out of ad revenue, and maybe that's why. And I understand that most people do this as a hobby or as a way to promote their Etsy shop, but I don't mind watching an ad or just ignoring the ad. Like, I'm not gonna be bitter about you wanting to get paid for your labor. Like, I know we do this for fun, but it's work. Like, it takes effort and time. So, I don't know, let me know what you think. Okay, this is a petty one. Every podcaster I have watched at some point has apologized for crinkling plastic, which, like, is fine, but can somebody please explain to me, and this is like genuine ignorance here, I really don't know, why is that sound bothersome? Like, it doesn't bug me, and maybe there's, you know, a reason it bothers somebody else. And that's totally legitimate. It's just everybody apologizes and nobody explains why. So I don't know. And last question, any other Chicagoland podcasters? Because I haven't seen any. And if you exist or you know of somebody who is, you know, filming somewhere around Chicago, I would love to watch their stuff and get in touch with them. So, you know, either speak up or let me know. I'd love to connect with you. Alright, final notes, what's going on in my life. If you don't care, that's cool. Hopefully we'll see you next episode, but if you do, my stuff is just work, apply to law school, knit, lather, rinse, repeat. I have gotten a couple offers back, which is super exciting. Just, you know, when you put these applications out, there's no guarantee that it's going to pay out in any way. You know, everybody could have said no, but so far nobody has. So very exciting and very scary and very expensive. Abby, who's not here, is studying like crazy as usual. I think boards are coming up in June, if I remember that right. Just the amount of hours she puts in on this stuff is nuts. So that's pretty much it for us. know that if you have suggestions for us, things you'd like to see, things that you think like suck and need improvement, if you're not like being an outright troll about it, I will be very receptive. So just send it our way, you know, on Ravelry or Instagram or whatever. You can find both of those accounts are called Get Lit in It. The Ravelry one is Get Lit in It Podcast, but whatever, it'll come up. You'll see my face on the avatar. I am super tired in that picture. It's not cute. And so yeah, find us there. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye. As Ellie. Okay, play with the box. What is beeping? If you hear crunching, that's the cat. Thanks, dude. Relatively new to being active on Ravelry. Where the hell did you get plastic from? A shortened version of the... Can you not? You're killing me. I'm gonna take that away from you.